Hello, everybody, and welcome to Freedom 101. I want to thank Peg TV and Chris and Chelsea, who are helping us behind the scenes. And also, I want to introduce my guest, who is Sean Manovill. Today, we'll be talking about our freedoms. Sean, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's Sean Manovill, and I'm happy to be here. Excited to get some information out and make sure that everybody is thinking about all angles during this crazy time. And we have a third person, I guess we're going to introduce.
Yes, here. Just so you know what's on the chair, this is Harley. Yes, say hi. We're going to let him go back to sleep. There you go. Thank you, Sean. So, Sean, people might not know that I'm a candidate. I'm an independent candidate for governor. I'm working on helping people understand what's really going from a freedom perspective. Now, I want to tell people how I met Sean. This is the first time that we're getting together today. But before this whole election run race started, I reached out to Sean. And I reached out because I wanted him to do what I'm doing, because I saw in Sean an enthusiasm, an ability to speak truth to power, and a consciousness of our constitutional rights. So I was absolutely thrilled when he said he would, but then he couldn't. So, Sean, why don't you speak to
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where through some situations going on as a small business owner here in Rutland County, I made a quick idea in my head, and a little too impulsive ends up being, but down the road, it's something that I feel like maybe I'm called to do because I enjoy speaking truths, and not only that, just taking information in from all angles and analyzing them as a adult in this world. And I think that's the main focus here is decisions that the people of the community can make for themselves, and not only that, just protection to live and not put people in harm's way, but to live a full life that God created for us.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And the reason why I've stayed in the race is because I'm very concerned at the protocols, and I'm very concerned at the agendas behind the protocols. And I'm here primarily to inform those who are open enough and who are awake enough to hear. And I want to give you a little bit of a scolding because most of you have not been brushing off your Constitution and looking at it, nor have most of you looked at the Governor's Emergency Powers Act. And you need to do that, because our freedoms are being encroached, and those freedoms may not come back unless enough of us stand up. And I'm standing up here as a candidate. My campaign is called Truth Matters because it does matter. So let's talk about the Constitution. What is your understanding of the Constitution in terms of the rights to assemble?
Well, I mean, here's the big thing with me too is what's going on now shifts us into that realm where we're talking about not only our constitutional rights, our God-given rights, but how they're being able to be used with or without, for instance, an executive order. And I'm not a constitutional expert, not even close to you as by any means, but what it means to me is, and what it means to probably most normal people in the community, such as myself, is we have certain things that we are able to do and shouldn't feel shameful for doing those things, shouldn't feel pressured to do other things away from that Constitution, and we really have the right to live, especially as adults, and make our own decisions in certain matters. Now, one of the things that we've talked about before, and you've educated me obviously on the Constitution, and people I think are starting to interpret it the way they see fit, but it's really not up for interpretation when it's written in black and white. But by all means, this isn't about using the Constitution as a weapon of destruction. This is using the Constitution as something as a guide, just as the Bible is in faith, to live our lives fully and
Well,
freely.
I have to interrupt you here because the Constitution is the ultimate law of the land. It is the law of land. And the unalienable rights, they seem like they're something that are given to us. No, those are intended that they come from the fact that we are human.
Okay.
There is absolutely no authority between ourselves and God. There is no authority that ought to be standing up and telling us what to do in terms of these particular rights. And they stem, of course, the freedom of speech and the freedom to be free from search and seizure, the freedom to assemble, all these different freedoms.
Yes.
These are not to be abridged by any other human on earth.
And you make a great point. And so, us, and being a conversation we haven't had like this that we're having now, and that's what education is all about. It's having conversations with people that want to either be educated more in a subject or to give our different opinions about. Because here's the thing, what you just said about the Constitution, I think there is a ton of people out there that would completely agree with you. Mm-hmm. Where it comes up is, at what point do they see fit to say no, whether it's a mask mandate or whether it's something else that will infringe or not infringe on your life, depending on how you feel?
Well, the very difficult part about these times is that people are very manipulatable by fear.
Correct.
So,
I would agree with that. 100%.
And we haven't had the need to have so much courage of our convictions. We haven't even been sure of our convictions, especially those of us who look at the news, who are really in a lot of mainstream media as their form of understanding what the world is. So our understanding of what is going on may be absolutely programmed by Google, by mainstream media, who aren't under any lawful guarantee telling us the truth, or any law. They do not have to tell us the truth.
Correct.
And they can leave out enormous portions and thereby change reality. And sadly, this is the bed of information that many people are working from. So they've created a situation that we're afraid of each other. We're afraid to get together. We only can get together on Zoom, where they can collect every single thing we say to one another. We're afraid of each other, that we're going to give each other this germ and kill each other. When you find out, actually, that this COVID is not the deadly killer that they made us afraid of, that masks are not protecting us the way they've told us. How many people are doing this with their masks?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the common sense that's been driven out of most people. What I'm looking for are the people who still have common sense, the people who are willing to take responsibility, the people who want to step forward and stand up for our rights. I don't know what to do about the rest of you.
Well, so a couple good things there. Number one, I agree. People manage through fear. I think that there's a lot of things in the media, exactly what you said, that are going to make people fearful. And that is going to dictate their decision, whether they wear a mask, whether they drive with a seatbelt on, whether they drink and drive. There's a million different things that they're able to make the wrong decision, but we've mandated certain things to protect people. And I completely understand that. But at some point, we have to come back and say, all right, if our God-given right is to decide, because it's not illegal and passed into law, to wear a mask or not, it's not even the fact of whether the mask will protect you or not. I'm going beyond that. I'm saying the fact that, is there somebody allowed to say you cannot wear a mask or you must quarantine for 14 days if you come out of state, but there's no way to regulate that or hold people accountable for that. And now we're trying to push the accountability away from a mandate, not a law, from the police to the business owner or to the general public, to either fear, shame, or make somebody feel uncomfortable because they're not doing something that they were affected by fear when they heard it on the news. But we've been doing this for a long, long time. Since the technology age has risen, we have big companies that do this in marketing. They tell us and lie to us all the time. We have the decision to go with that product or that product. So this isn't new. Trampling on our constitutional rights, if that's what this is, that hasn't, by false information or fear, this has been happening all across our world forever. So for me, I like to just dummy it down to the very basic thing here. As an adult, and I think 18 years old makes you an adult to make your own decision on many things. If you want to, for instance, wear a mask in public or wear a mask when you're driving or social distance or not, that is your choice. And the fear of you're going to kill somebody if you do that is where I think is wrong, because that is you know, if you don't wear a seatbelt or don't buckle your kids up when you drive. Now, I personally buckle my seatbelt every single time I get in the car, but I am able to not. Now, can a cop pull me over and give me a ticket? Absolutely. If they're willing to give tickets for not wearing a mask,
I don't want to go into the criminal justice industry as it stands.
But I was saying more about advertising and marketing.
Or statute law.
Right.
Because there is God's law, which is essentially the golden rule or the law of love. And I think that would serve us much better, but that's a broader issue. What I want to do is come back to one of the reasons why I've stayed in the race. And the reason is I am fighting for, and I don't like using that word, but it is a struggle and it's an awful lot of work, fighting for the right for people to refuse any idea of vaccines. Now, those who want to get vaccine, go ahead. But the people who don't want government to have the authority to tell us what to do with our bodies need to have the right and need to have the government respect our right to continue our life without vaccines. Now, here's the issue with vaccines. Many people say, whoa, the vaccines are safe, they are healthy, but they don't know that Congress has made the vaccine makers immune to liability. And they don't know that vaccines have been causing harm, but nobody has been able to prove it because Congress, I believe, in a very wrong and treacherous move to the people, have made vaccine makers immune to liability. So they've been hoisting it on children where I had 3 vaccines, now children have like 70 vaccines. And the rate of autism has been going from 1 in 10,000 way back in the 50s. Now it's 1 in 38. And we aren't able to prove it in courts of law. This is a wrongdoing. So I'm here in this race specifically now to make sure that the people are aware that the right to say what goes into your body is a right worth standing up for right now.
I appreciate your passion, honestly, and I'm not a vaccine expert, and I don't know any of the numbers, but again, you just hit it right on the head. We need to have the information as the people, and we need the ability to decide. We talked about it a little bit earlier outside. You know, if we're going to go down the road where there's people in power in our state or federal government that are going to start demanding a flu vaccination or something, listen, we science aside, there has to be the human right to decide whether. And if you're going to start saying that kids can't go to school without this new vaccine or an old vaccine that they are deciding, you know, instead of the people deciding. So I love your passion on it. Right.
Well, I mean, yesterday I printed out the vaccine injuries table. And anybody can print this out. Now, you guys back at home, you need to be doing some homework. You need to be looking at this. And I recommend very much a number of sites. You can get in touch with me, or you can look at Robert Kennedy's work on vaccines. He's won some cases. And really what I'm working on is to bring you all into the place where you can exercise your sovereignty, your sovereign rights and your sovereignty. And many of us have been so removed from what does it mean to be sovereign? What it means to be sovereign is that we are all equal. And there is nobody that has authority to do anything to you that you don't want to. Of course, that's not what's going on, but we need to learn how to step into that right again. And there's people organizing all across the state to do that. There's people organizing in Canada They're calling it KNATA. They're doing people's assemblies. And the work will go on beyond this election because, as you know, you really only have 2 viable choices as chosen for you by the press. So the work will go on, and I'm praying that Sean will step up as a candidate for governor because of his enthusiasm, the way he is so comfortable with people. And we will all work as well as we can to preserve the future, to preserve any semblance of well-being, of happiness, of safety, of justice, of well-being amongst peoples of all color.
And, just touching on that, and I'm very flattered, and I've had a lot of discussions with a lot of people, and I do want to provide public service to the state of Vermont and the community. And one thing you touched on, too, is, 2 people chosen by the media. We can go into having a 2-person race or a 2-party race as something that is kind of tough for some Vermonters because, listen, you almost are like, okay, do I want or do I? There's no real method or measure to get that. We've seen that in other debates where they do not allow other people to come in and debate. And they have their reasons for that, and people, again, can make their own decision. But I think you just hit it right on the head is, if I do decide to run, and I will be running for public office over the next years. I just haven't put my finger on where, when, and how. But I'm only going to do that because I feel called to do that. I feel like I'm excited, as you are today, to really give Vermonters, a fresh look instead of the same old. We've got these 2 guys, and they're the only ones allowed to debate things, and they're the experts given to them by the media. So I just love people so much. People from every background, people that believe everything and anything. I love conversations with people. I have a ton of conversations with a lot of people, not only in my small businesses, which I own, but in the public, because I think it's so important to have people understand that, listen, you're voting for this person. It's not just a ticket in the box. This is what you truly believe, and you want that to be seen in somebody that you want to represent you. And if you only have 2 choices and you don't believe in either of those choices, it's just tough that the media hasn't given an outlet for somebody to come in and share, what they really feel is important, and maybe a lot of people that will speak to. So I'm just super passionate about people, and it's a awesome thing in Vermont because this is the one state that it could possibly happen,
Right.
because it's such small.
And that's why we're grateful again to Chris and Chelsea and for this opportunity, and for those of you that are at home. And I'll tell you why I'm running and why I do run. It's because you've had this happen before when somebody you care about is being bamboozled, or the wool is being pulled over their heads, and you just want to say, no, there's a different way. No, look at it like this. No, you need this information. This is what it's been for me. And I almost feel like crying because I've been running for a long time to help people see what is really going on and what the policies could be that could provide the well-being that we need. I started with public banking, and then I did the hemp, but there's right now, look at Article 7 of our Constitution. That's your homework. Go look at Article 7 and find out what it says. It'll tell you that is our unalienable right. That is our right between ourselves and God and each other. Our right to transform how we do self-governance. And I want you to step into that right, because we're at a place we're in danger of losing our very humanity. And I'm not overstating it. And it's very sad to have to be here to tell you this. But the idea with the mandatory vaccines is a very dark one. And the idea is that nobody will be able to go anywhere unless they can be scanned, and be proven to have this vaccine. Never mind its harms. And that means an end to our freedom, if you can be tracked and traced.
Again, I love your passion on that, and of course, I think a lot of people out there agree. Here it is for me. I just think that people, that don't have these conversations, and they just go to the ballot box and they vote for whoever they're going to vote for. The way that people are shamed for instance, not wearing a mask and social distancing at the same time, or feeling a certain way if you're a business that fights back against something that you maybe don't think is correct, not lawful, in our laws. So that public shaming to make people forced to do something maybe they don't want, like wear a mask, that we should start, building people up instead of shaming them, of speaking how they feel without feeling like they're going to get shamed. One thing I think the media does, and it's nothing against media, listen, every individual reporter works for a company and they feel as though they have to do this kind of job. There's people behind them, just like my employees feel like they want me to go in a certain direction. I don't fault the reporters or the misinformation. I fault the system that built that, because unfortunately then you have to get put into a category or a bubble, and there's so few categories and bubbles, because I don't know very many people that agree with everything on this side, I don't think there's any. No. But they do feel if they say something that maybe agrees with a politician that their side doesn't appreciate, you're shamed away from that. And I just think it's just like our freedoms. We shouldn't be tempted to be in that bubble because they're shaming us to be in that.
That's right. You touch upon a couple of very important aspects of what's going on. As long as the American people can be divided, as long as there's liberals and as long as there's left and right, Trumps and Bidens, then we cannot stand up for our freedom. So the very first thing you'll find that you will not hear me calling anybody anything different than a person or people. I will not call you a taxpayer. I will not call you a consumer. Those are very dehumanizing, and I encourage you. In fact, I'm asking you all to think about stopping using those labels and just begin to think of ourselves as people and find out what is that commonplace. And you'll find that people are not as racist as they want you to believe. They want for you what they want for themselves. They want to be healthy, happy, productive. They don't necessarily need to be rich as all get out. They need to be wealthy enough. So all these things we can only provide to each other at this juncture on our Earth's history, because the cabal, is what I call the elite, are not interested in them for us. I'm just telling you flat out. So Sean, I had another thought. I'm going to throw it back to you for a minute so I can gather it.
Okay. Well, no, one thing that you did touch upon too is, really opening up and finding common ground. You absolutely can find common ground with everybody, but what we try to do is find where we're not common and then ostracize or make people feel a certain way because they don't feel in this one particular area. I think the cool thing about Vermont is that we are a small enough, tight-knit body of people, community that needs small businesses, very small businesses. We were talking about this earlier. If these big chains start demanding certain things, like not using cash, for instance, or things of that nature, not going down this road. But what I'm saying is, in Vermont, in very few states, but I would say Vermont is one of very few that will say, I have the choice to go down the road to the local farm. I have the choice to go help real working people instead of these big, huge companies. And that's what's cool about Vermont is, if there's a place where it can change, although we're small and a lot of other things we can't be trendsetters, that, even though we're so small, could be a trendsetter for the rest of the country as it comes on. I think that's awesome.
We were the first people to let go of slavery. And so we can be the first again to reclaim our sovereignty. Now, what I wanted to say is that there's a few gatherings coming up. There's one on the 19th in Montpelier at the State House from 1 to 4. There's one on the 26th in Brattleboro, again, from 1 to 4. And there's another in Burlington. I believe it's the 1st. And also on the 15th, apparently, there is a mask-free sort of worldwide protest. People may not know that millions of people, I mean millions of people, because mainstream hasn't been covering it, have been protesting in Germany and the UK. They have been filling the streets, and you will not hear about it. And they don't wear masks because they see through the COVID agenda. And, I'll get flack for this, for saying this, but I can only speak truth. And it's sometimes not what people are ready to hear because they've heard so much phony stuff.
I disagree with you a little bit. I think they are ready to hear it, honestly. I mean, here's what happens, in my opinion, and this is my opinion. I'm not, I don't have a PhD after my name, so they won't call me an expert. And I'm not looking to become an expert. When it comes to masks, for instance, they said we follow the science and, we make these decisions. They make these decisions at the top of the state. What I'm saying is they're given the same information that we're given. They get the numbers and they put them out to us. So they're analyzing the same numbers as we are. It's not like they're in the lab working on the virus themselves. So what I'm saying is I'm not even saying don't wear a mask. I'm not saying that at all. Because I'm not going to take someone's freedom that wants to wear a mask and take it away. So that's the difference here. I'm not saying and campaigning or saying don't wear a mask, fight the man just because. That's what they do. They try to put you in the box saying, yeah, you just don't care about people's health and well-being. That's not true. I have family members with comorbidities, and if I got them sick, that they would not make it. So here's my thing. I'm saying wear the mask. If that's what you choose to do, do it. Yeah. And I'm not saying bring one, bring all, and let's show these people we're not going to listen. I'm saying everyone has their own option. I hope at these places where they congregate with people without masks, I hope there's people with masks and they're having real conversations because we all have the same information.
That's right. Well, there are places that have gone before us. South Dakota, there were 7 states that did not have the mandates. And the reason why Vermont, we've been so healthy are a couple of reasons. Is because we have the great outdoors, we have better food, we have more sunshine, we have better vitamins, and we also didn't get that many ventilators. So we've been healthy because of our environment, and we've known this. But there's other states and Sweden who did not do any lockdowns. They're completely, there's nobody dying. I believe there's no cases anymore in Sweden. It's turning out to be a flu, and a flu can be dangerous to some. A flu can put some people over the top. I'm not saying that people haven't had dreadful deaths from this, but they're not the number of deaths. In fact, the CDC just admitted that only 6% of the people that they counted actually died from COVID. Others died with COVID, and some of those were people who were in car accidents, people who had cancers, people who were poisoned. So a conservative number is that 40,000 people have died either from COVID or that COVID pushed them over the edge.
And a lot of people will say too is it's all in the numbers and how you check numbers. I actually had this conversation with somebody the other day, and they were saying, well, I'm going to be a little apprehensive on these numbers. And here's the best part. Whether those people that died, the 94% that died with COVID and something else, if they would have had the flu and died with the flu or something else, here's the deal. We're not testing every single person 1,800 tests a day if they have influenza A or B. We're not just randomly testing to see who's asymptomatic with the flu. What I'm saying is if you want to find that number, you can find it. Again, that's not to promote go be unsafe, go to large gatherings without masks on just because. What that's saying is you're a human being with the right to do what you want to do, and you shouldn't be shamed for either way. Again, This is not dangerous talk. This is just telling you that, so eventually, are we going to say the mask is going to be forever? Are we going to mandate the mask no matter what? Because this executive order is put into place due to the science. They say it. We're going to follow the science and follow the numbers. So what number or least amount of deaths or least amount of positive cases, what is the number where we're like, okay, we don't need that executive order anymore? And who gets to decide that? Well, we know who, and they're going to do whatever they feel is safe instead of what we as the people feel is safe. And again, this is not just to bash the people in power. Right. What I'm saying is, as Americans, we have to understand that as Vermonters, listen, let's make our own decision on these things. No one should be telling us what to do. I'm nobody's parent.
So then we come into people's assemblies to inquire into this thing. And in fact, this weekend, there's going to be a people's grand jury up in Montgomery that I'm attending. So we are beginning to look at these things. Because remember, the law is in our hands. We create the law if we will be so wise as to step up and do it. And so that's why I'm annoyed with the people who haven't yet brushed off their Constitution. And I'm telling you, you should do this. Go and look at your Constitution because there are rights you need. Now we're rounding out the half hour. And so I want to thank you, Sean.
Thank you for having me.
I want to work more with you.
Yeah,
and I believe everybody's voice needs to be at the table, not just those who get to be the 2 candidates that are elected. I want to see a transformation where we have a gear system. Everybody's voice matters.
And I appreciate, having me here. This really means a lot to me. I'm kind of not in the public light. I've been in the public light here in the past few months, but not by choice. This intrigues me. Vermont is where I was born and raised. I left for a while, and I'm one of the few people that actually came back to Vermont. I was gone for about 12 years down south in Florida, and I came back with my family to raise my kids here in Vermont. But thank you.
Bye.